My name is Abby Hoeflich, and this is my testimony. Almost 2 years ago, on June 2nd, 2023, my husband and I welcomed our second child, our little boy Walker Ford Hoeflich. 6 hours after his birth, we noticed a grunt with his breathing. He stopped nursing and started to get restless and agitated. My motherly instincts were telling me something wasn't right. Multiple calls to the nurses, and he was eventually taken to the NICU inside St. Anne's Hospital. Within 24 hours after his birth, he was being transferred to Nationwide Children's Hospital. We were told he was fighting an infection. He had pneumonia in one lung, acid in his blood, and a heart murmur. The doctors called him a mystery, and after working on him all night, could not figure out what was going on and why his labs were not matching his symptoms. Right after Walker was transported to Children's, we were packing our bags and waiting for me to get discharged. Quickly, we hoped, as the nurses said they try to do in these situations. As we were waiting on my doctor to discharge me, I spiked a fever, and it was obvious I was also fighting an infection. I could no longer leave as they advised I start IV antibiotics. Completely heartbroken, I looked right at my husband and told him he had to get to Walker. We called Nationwide Children's NICU to get an update on Walker and his room number so Austin would know where to go. And during that phone call, Walker's neonatologist got on the phone himself, requesting verbal consent to give our baby blood transfusions and place him on a ventilator because he was struggling too much to breathe on his own. In that moment, time stood still. We were paralyzed with fear and the reality of what Walker's future may look like. My heart was shattered, and I was miles away from my newborn baby as he fought for his life. Austin and my sister-in-law, Megan, got to Walker's side as quickly as they could. My parents and closest friends came to be with me. Cultures were ran as soon as Walker got to Children's, and within 24 hours, he was diagnosed with a strep A infection. Women are routinely checked for strep B, but strep A is so rare. Walker's neonatologist told my husband Walker was very, very sick and that they would do everything they could. Walker's infectious disease doctor told my husband that they had never seen a baby in toxic shock with a strep A infection. He was calling his colleagues all over the country to figure out how to treat our little boy. Antibiotics they were giving me at St. Anne's were working, and I no longer had symptoms, but the protocol for an invasive strep A infection on a mother is 4 days of IV antibiotics, followed by 10 days of oral antibiotics, which meant I was not able to leave for 3 more days. Words can't describe how devastated I was when I received that news. The first night I spent at St. Anne's Hospital alone was a night I will never forget. I sobbed out in prayer, begging God to heal my baby and to let me hold him again. It was the darkest time of my life and the deepest valley I've ever been through. But at 2 a.m. in an empty hospital room, I had never felt closer to Jesus. I could feel his presence with me in that very moment, like he held me as I sobbed. I was not alone, and for all the days ahead and every challenge we faced, Jesus was closer than ever before. Not just walking by my side, but often carrying me through. There are so many distinct moments that I will never forget, and so many moments that were truly examples of God's perfect timing. Walker's quick delivery, me calling the nurse when I did, the doctor starting antibiotics when they did, getting a diagnosis and knowing how to treat him, my doctor not releasing me from the hospital too early after I received the same diagnosis, my brother visiting me at the exact moment my sister-in-law held Walker for the first time. I remember telling Gar, as we watched Meg hold Walker on the video, that there was no one else in the world I would rather want holding my baby if I wasn't able to. All of this in God's hands and his perfect timing. I believe there is an undeniable power in prayer. We had so many family and friends praying for us. I had people in the church that didn't even know us praying for our sweet boy. My brother Gar brought me a prayer cloth when he came to visit me in the hospital. The cloth was anointed with oil and prayed over by the elders of the church right here at Christ the King. I held that prayer cloth every time I prayed. Psalms 18:6 says, "Your cries have awoken the Master." There are no words to say thank you enough to each and every one of you that prayed for Walker. Our God is a faithful God. God heard our prayers, and our amazing God answered our prayers. I've witnessed his healing touch. Day by day, Walker's body began to heal. On day 10, he came off the ventilator. On day 14, his blood count was high enough to get a spinal tap to see if the bacteria had crossed the blood-brain barrier. He was diagnosed with meningitis, but his brain MRI was completely clear of any bacteria, and the antibiotics were working, and he was healing. I know that the God that formed my little boy is the same God that healed my little boy. After 19 days in the NICU, he got to come home and meet his big sister, Sutton. I thank God every single day for making me a mom, blessing me with my two beautiful children. We serve a faithful God. I can never put into words how great our God is. I never want to forget what he's done for me. Walker is a miracle of God. I just know God has big plans for my little boy.